What if the person you least expected turned your quiet neighborhood into a battlefield? Picture this. It's a lazy Sunday morning in our suburban cul-de-sac, the kind where the only sound is sprinklers hissing and kids biking past. My wife, Lena Torres, is out front, watering her prized azaleas, her ponytail swaying in the breeze. Suddenly, a black SUV with no plates screeches to a halt, blocking our driveway like it owns the street. Two men leap out, dressed in knockoff security gear. No badges, no names, just radios and a vibe that screams trouble. One of them, all swagger and no sense, points a gun right at Lena's chest and barks, "Hands up! You're trespassing on HOA-protected property." I'm frozen at the window, my coffee mug halfway to my lips. Not because I'm scared, but because these clowns have no clue who they're messing with. Lena's not just a gardener. She's an active Delta Force operative, and in about 10 seconds, their world's about to flip upside down. Our quiet town of Willow Creek, with its manicured lawns and nosy neighbors, hides secrets deeper than unpaid HOA dues, and today those secrets are about to explode. What would you do if a fake cop pulled a gun on someone you love? I stood there, coffee mug trembling in my hand, watching two fake HOA goons point a gun at my wife, Lena Torres, like they thought they could scare her. The Willow Creek morning was still, the kind of quiet that makes your heartbeat feel too loud. Lena, in her gardening apron, didn't even flinch. Her eyes locked on the guy with the gun, a wiry wannabe with a cheap radio and a smirk that screamed overconfidence. "You've got 5 seconds to lower that weapon," she said, her voice low, steady, like she was reading him his last rites. The guy laughed, all bravado and no brains. "Or what, lady?" His partner, a stocky dude with a fake badge pinned crooked, snickered, stepping closer like he owned our driveway. Big mistake. I knew that look on Lena's face, calm as a still lake, but underneath, a current ready to drown them both. I'd seen it once before, years ago, when she disarmed a knife-wielding thug in a parking lot in under 3 seconds flat. Her movements so smooth I barely blinked. These clowns thought she was just a housewife watering azaleas. They didn't know she was Delta Force, active, not retired. And in Willow Creek, where the secrets hid behind every picket fence, they just kicked a hornet's nest. The air thickened, like the moment before a storm breaks. Lena's posture shifted, subtle but deadly. A slight tilt of her foot, her fingers curling just enough to signal she was ready. I could almost hear her mind racing, calculating angles, distances, the weight of that gun. The guy with the weapon started to sweat, his grip twitching, like he sensed something was off but couldn't place it. His partner didn't notice, still puffing his chest. "You're not supposed to be here," he spat, his voice dripping with fake authority. "This neighborhood's got rules and you didn't clear them." Rules? Willow Creek's HOA was a shadowy clique, more like a cartel than a homeowners board, rumored to bully new residents, especially ones like us, relocated through a federal program for military families. We'd heard whispers of their enforcers intimidating folks, but a gun in broad daylight? That was new. Lena's eyes didn't waver, still pinned on the gunman. "You're not HOA," she said, her tone cutting like a blade. "And you're definitely not cops. Impersonating law enforcement is a felony." The words hung there, heavy, and I saw the gunman's smirk falter, a crack in his fake confidence. Ever seen someone realize they're in way over their head? The Willow Creek sun glared down, turning our driveway into a stage where two fake HOA enforcers thought they held the script. My wife, Lena Torres, stood calm as stone, her gardening apron dusted with dirt, facing a gun pointed by a wiry thug whose smirk was fading fast. His partner, a stocky guy with a crooked fake badge, stepped closer, his voice thick with scorn. "Delta Force? Yeah, right," he scoffed like he was calling her bluff. "You're just some nobody who didn't get the memo. This neighborhood's exclusive." My stomach twisted, not from fear, but from the sheer stupidity of their arrogance. Lena's eyes didn't flicker, still locked on the gunman, her body coiled like a spring under her calm facade. I'd seen that stance before, on a late-night training op I wasn't supposed to witness, when she'd taken down a sparring partner twice her size without breaking a sweat. These guys weren't just wrong. They were about to learn how wrong, and Willow Creek's manicured lawns were no shield for what was coming. I stepped onto the porch, my voice steady but burning. Our house was bought through a federal grant. You're on private property. The gunman snapped his weapon back up, now aiming at both of us, his voice a snarl. 10 seconds to pack up and leave. Military types aren't welcome here. The air turned electric, like a fuse about to blow. Lena didn't move, but everything around her seemed to still. The hum of cicadas, the rustle of leaves, even the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. The gunman's hand shook, just enough to betray his nerve, his eyes darting to his partner for backup. The partner doubled down, jabbing a finger at us. "You people weren't cleared by the board," he spat, his words dripping with a venom that felt personal, like they knew exactly who Lena was and came to push her anyway. Willow Creek's HOA wasn't just a nosy clique. Whispers in town called it a front, a machine that squeezed out undesirables. Veterans, newcomers, anyone who didn't fit their polished mold. We'd heard stories of families harassed, mailboxes smashed, leases mysteriously canceled. But this, a gun in our face over azaleas? This was a declaration of war. Lena's voice cut through, cold and precise. "You just threatened a federal operative on U.S. soil." The gunman blinked, his bravado cracking like cheap glass. "What?" he stammered, and I felt the shift. Lena wasn't just defending our home. She was about to turn their game against them, and the whole neighborhood was watching from behind twitching blinds. Ever seen someone's power trip crumble when they realize they picked the wrong fight? The Willow Creek driveway felt like a pressure cooker, the midday sun baking the tension into every crack of our concrete. My wife, Lena Torres, stood unflinching, her gardening apron a stark contrast to the lethal calm in her eyes as she faced two fake HOA enforcers, one with a gun trembling in his grip, the other spewing nonsense about exclusive neighborhoods. The wiry gunman's threat to make us leave still hung in the air, his voice brittle now, like he sensed the ground shifting under him. His stocky partner, with that crooked fake badge, doubled down, his finger jabbing toward us. "You're done here, military trash," he growled, but his bravado was thinning, his eyes flickering to Lena's unmoving stare. I was on the porch, my heart pounding, not from fear but from the certainty that these idiots had no idea they just lit a fuse. Lena's voice sliced through, sharp as a scalpel. "You just threatened a federal operative on U.S. soil while holding an unregistered firearm." The gunman's face twitched, his weapon dipping slightly, and I knew. This was the moment they'd learn who Lena really was. I pulled out my phone, already live streaming to my cousin at County Dispatch, the screen glowing with the truth they couldn't hide. "Smile for the sheriff," I said, angling the camera at them, and the air turned heavy, like Willow Creek itself was holding its breath. Lena stepped forward, slow and deliberate, her sneakers silent on the pavement. The gunman flinched, his partner muttering, "What's she doing?" like he thought she'd back down. She didn't. She turned, walked to the porch planter, and knelt beside it, her movements precise, like she'd rehearsed this 1,000 times. Beneath the planter was a metal lockbox, bolted tight, its matte black surface catching the sun. The enforcers watched, confusion creasing their faces, as she punched in a code. 6 digits, too fast to catch. The lock clicked open with a sound that felt louder than it should have. She stood holding a worn leather binder, its silver eagle emblem glinting like a warning. "You want HOA rules?" she said, flipping it open, her voice steady but laced with steel. "Here's the Department of Defense contract. This home's assigned to active personnel under national security protocols." The stocky guy squinted, his bravado crumbling. That can't be right. We weren't told." "You weren't supposed to be," I cut in, stepping closer, my phone still recording. "You're not HOA. You're not law enforcement. And that badge?" I leaned in, plucked the plastic pin from his vest and tossed it into the grass. It landed with a pathetic thud, and the gunman's weapon sank lower, his hands shaking like he wanted to bolt. Willow Creek's perfect facades, its trimmed hedges, its gossiping neighbors peeking through blinds, hid a rot these men were part of, a scheme to push out families like ours, and Lena was about to blow it wide open. Ever watch someone's whole world collapse when they realize they're not the one in charge? The Willow Creek driveway pulsed with raw tension, the kind that makes your skin prickle like a storm's rolling in. My wife, Lena Torres, stood holding that leather binder with its silver eagle, her Delta Force authority now a sledgehammer against the two fake HOA enforcers crumbling before her. The wiry gunman's weapon sagged in his hands, his face slick with sweat, his eyes darting like a trapped animal's. His stocky partner, the one with the plastic badge I'd tossed into the grass, stammered, You can't do this. We're with the HOA. But his voice cracked, and the lie sounded hollow even to him. Lena's gaze didn't waver, her apron still dusted with garden dirt. But her presence was pure steel. She'd just declared our home federal property under a Department of Defense contract, and these clowns were realizing they'd stepped into a trap they couldn't bluff their way out of. I held my phone steady, live streaming to my cousin at County Dispatch, the screen capturing every beat of sweat, every twitch of their panic. Keep talking, I said, my voice low but sharp. The sheriff's loving this. The gunman's partner snapped. The HOA doesn't answer to the sheriff. We report to the board. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about our azaleas or some petty rule. This was a test, a probe, and Lena was about to flip it into a full-blown crisis for whoever sent them. Lena's breathing slowed, a signal I'd seen before on missions I wasn't supposed to know about, when she'd outmaneuvered threats most people wouldn't survive. She tapped the mic clipped to her collar, small, discreet, military grade, and spoke, her voice like ice over a blade. Bravo 9 to Sentinel. Package confirmed. Possible federal offense in progress. Send visual units for detainment. The words landed like a grenade. The gunman's weapon dropped an inch more, his mouth half open, like he couldn't process what he'd heard. His partner whispered, "What the hell is this?" His eyes wide, scanning the street as if backup might save them. But Willow Creek's perfect lawns and silent houses offered no rescue, just the faint hum of a neighbor's sprinkler and the weight of hidden eyes behind curtains. The HOA board they kept name-dropping wasn't just a clique of busybodies. Rumors swirled about their ties to shady developers, a network that strong-armed families like ours, military, relocated, outsiders, out of town with threats and fake fines. Lena wasn't just defending our home. She was calling their entire game. She pressed the mic again, her tone surgical. Sentinel, confirm. Unit Bravo 9 reporting false authority on site. Suspects armed, request immediate backup. The gunman's hand shook so hard I thought he'd drop the gun right there. His partner frozen, muttering, call it in, like he still thought their board could bail them out. But the distant wail of sirens, real ones, not their fake security nonsense, cut through the air, red and blue lights flashing 2 blocks away, and I knew Lena had just turned their power trip into a nightmare. Ever felt the moment when the tables turn and the bullies realize they're the ones who should run? The Willow Creek street vibrated with the scream of sirens, red and blue lights slicing through the noon haze like a warning from the heavens. My wife, Lena Torres, stood in our driveway, her Delta Force mic still clipped to her collar, the leather binder with its silver eagle tucked under her arm, her calm so lethal it seemed to suck the air dry. The 2 fake HOA enforcers were unraveling. The wiry gunman's weapon now dangled uselessly, his face a mask of panic, while his stocky partner, badgeless after I'd tossed his fake pin, muttered, "This wasn't supposed to happen." They'd come to bully us, thinking Lena was just a gardener, not a Bravo 9 operative who just called in federal backup. I kept my phone streaming to my cousin at County Dispatch, capturing every second of their collapse, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "Sheriff's here, boys," I said, nodding toward the flashing cruisers rounding the corner. The gunman's eyes widened, his gun hitting the grass with a dull thud, like his courage had finally jumped ship. But Lena's gaze didn't shift. She was already steps ahead, her mind not on these pawns but on the board they answered to, a shadow network that thought it could scare us out of Willow Creek. The sheriff's cruiser skidded to a stop, kicking up dust, followed by 2 more, their doors flying open. Sheriff Daniels stepped out, a grizzled veteran with a face like carved oak, his badge glinting real authority. His deputies fanned out, hands on holsters, eyes scanning the scene. The dropped gun, Lena's binder, my phone's glowing screen. The stocky enforcer tried to speak. "We're with the HOA. We—" But Daniels cut him off with a look that could freeze lava. "You're done," he said, his voice low. Final. The gunman dropped to his knees, hands up, his bravado gone like a pop balloon. His partner tried to bolt, stumbling over a sprinkler head, but a deputy tackled him into the manicured lawn, cuffs clicking before he could spit another excuse. Lena stepped forward, handing Daniels the binder. "Impersonating officers, threatening federal personnel, unregistered firearm," she said, her tone clipped. Professional, like she was briefing a mission. Daniels nodded, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "Always prepared, Torres," he said, then turned to the cuffed enforcers, now slumped like scolded kids. "You picked the wrong house." I felt it then, not just relief, but a surge of something fiercer, like justice had teeth. But as the deputies hauled them to the cruisers, Lena's eyes scanned the street, past the twitching blinds of nosy neighbors, past the perfect hedges hiding Willow Creek's secrets. She leaned close, her voice a whisper. "This wasn't random. They knew who I was." A chill ran through me, because she was right. This wasn't about HOA rules. It was a coordinated hit, and the real fight was just beginning. Ever seen the moment when small-time bullies realize they're pawns in a much bigger game? The Willow Creek street fell silent as the sheriff's cruisers peeled away, their red and blue lights fading into the haze, hauling off the two fake HOA enforcers in cuffs. My wife, Lena Torres, stood on our porch, her Delta Force mic still clipped to her collar, the leather binder now closed but heavy with the weight of what it proved. Our home was federal turf, and those clowns had just committed a felony. I lowered my phone. The live stream ended, but my hands were still shaking, not from fear, but from the fire in my chest, a mix of pride and dread. Lena's eyes swept the neighborhood, past the manicured lawns and twitching blinds where neighbors watched but never stepped out. The air was thick, not with relief, but with the kind of quiet that follows a warning shot. She turned to me, her voice low, her words like a blade. "This wasn't about the lawn. They were sent to test me." My gut twisted because I knew she was right. Willow Creek's HOA wasn't just a petty club. It was a front, a cog in a machine that targeted families like ours. Military transplants dropped into their perfect little fiefdom. And now, with those enforcers gone, whoever pulled their strings was watching, waiting. I followed Lena inside, the door clicking shut behind us. But the house didn't feel safe anymore. The azaleas outside, the welcome mat, the hum of the fridge. It all felt like a stage set for something darker. She sat at the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the binder's eagle, her mind already miles ahead. "They knew I was Delta Force," she said, her voice steady but edged with something new, something predatory. This was coordinated. Before I could respond, a faint creak came from the front door. My heart stopped. I opened it slowly, half expecting another gun, but found only a white envelope on the mat. No name, no seal. Inside, a single line in bold black ink. "You're not done. You can't win." I showed it to Lena. She didn't flinch, just ripped it clean in half, her eyes burning. They have no idea who they're dealing with. But the threat wasn't empty. Willow Creek's HOA had a reputation. Families pushed out, violations fabricated, whispers of a board tied to developers who'd do anything to control the town's land. We were the new blood, the military couple who didn't bow, and they'd come for us knowing exactly who Lena was. My phone buzzed, a text from Sheriff Daniels. "It's bigger than we thought. They're linked to a network, targeting military across counties." Lena read it over my shoulder, her jaw tight. "They're not just after our house," she said. "They're after control." The room felt smaller, the walls closing in, and I realized this wasn't a fight we could walk away from. It was a war, and Lena was already planning her next move. Ever felt like you're being hunted, only to realize you're married to the hunter? The Willow Creek kitchen felt like a war room, the late afternoon light slanting through the blinds, casting sharp shadows across the table where Lena Torres sat, her Delta Force binder open, its pages a map to the enemy's heart. My phone lay silent after Sheriff Daniels' text about a network targeting military families, but the ripped envelope, "You're not done. You can't win," lay in the trash, its threat fuel for Lena's fire. My name's not important, but I'm the guy married to a Bravo 9 operative who doesn't flinch when the world tries to break her. Lena's eyes were locked on the security footage playing on her laptop. The fake enforcer's SUV frozen mid-frame. No plates, no markings, just a ghost vehicle for a ghost fight. "They're not amateurs," she said, her voice low, surgical, like she was dissecting a bomb. "But they're sloppy." I leaned against the counter, my pulse still racing from the driveway showdown, knowing she wasn't just reacting, she was rewriting the rules of this war. Willow Creek's HOA was a front, tied to developers who didn't just want our land, but control over every inch of this town, and Lena was about to turn their playbook to ash. She tapped out a message on her phone, fingers moving like she was wiring a detonator, then looked up. "We're not waiting for their next move," I nodded, catching the glint in her eye. The same one I saw years ago when she outsmarted a smuggler in a border town. Her plan so tight it left no room for error. She'd already synced the porch footage to 2 cloud backups, the grainy video, a legal weapon showing the enforcer's felony in crisp detail. Then she called her old unit buddy Marcus, a cyber ops specialist who could trace a ghost to its grave. "Need a deep dive on a Willow Creek HOA board," she told him, her voice all business. "Names, accounts, property deals, everything." Minutes later, she set up a meeting with Sheriff Daniels for dawn, her tone leaving no doubt. She wasn't asking for help. She was building an army. I stepped outside to check the truck, my nerves raw, and that's when I saw it. The gate, always locked, swung wide open. No forced entry, no scratches, just open like a dare. Tucked under the mailbox was another envelope, same black ink, same font. "You're being watched." My blood ran cold, but Lena didn't blink when I showed her. She grabbed her phone, dialed Daniels, her voice razor sharp. "We're coming in early. Bring the county records." Then she texted someone else, a journalist, Elena Vega, known for gutting corrupt developers in print. "This isn't just us," Lena said, her eyes meeting mine, fierce, unstoppable. "They're targeting every military family in 3 counties. We end this now." The HOA's shadow network thought they could scare us out. But Lena wasn't just fighting back. She was coming for their king, and Willow Creek's perfect streets were about to crack wide open. Ever seen someone turn a threat into a battle plan that could take down an empire? The Willow Creek dawn was gray and heavy, like the sky knew we were moving against a storm. My wife, Lena Torres, sat in the driver's seat of our truck, her Delta Force binder stowed in a tactical bag, her eyes sharp as she navigated a back road she'd once used for evasion drills. I'm just the guy riding shotgun. My name doesn't matter. But my heart was pounding as we headed not to Sheriff Daniels' office, but to a rendezvous with her contact, a shadow move to outflank the HOA's puppet masters. The threatening envelopes, "You're being watched," still burned in my mind. But Lena was ice, her plan locked tight after syncing footage, looping in her cyber ops buddy Marcus, and tipping off journalist Elena Vega. We stopped at a rundown diner on the town's edge, the kind where the coffee's stale and the booths smell of grease. Lena chose the corner, her back to the wall, eyes on the door. A man in a plain jacket walked in, didn't look at us, and sat across the room. 2 taps on her coffee cup, a pause, then one more, her signal. He slid a manila folder across our table without a word and vanished. Lena flipped it open. Names, photos, bank wires, property deals. A web of corruption tying Willow Creek's HOA to developers across 4 counties, targeting military families, retirees, anyone who wouldn't bend. At the center, Victor Salazar, board chair, land baron, the name stamped on our fake violation notice. We didn't head home. Lena rerouted to a dirt trail, her truck's tires crunching gravel as we approached Salazar's estate, a fortress of wealth hidden behind tall gates and cameras. It wasn't a house. It was a compound. Guards in black stationed like hawks, hedges clipped to conceal their menace. Lena didn't flinch. She'd already mapped the perimeter on her phone, spotting blind spots from satellite feeds Marcus had pulled. "We're not knocking," she said, her voice low, final. We circled to a utility easement, a narrow path overgrown with weeds where power lines hummed like a warning. My breath caught as we moved, Lena's steps silent, her body low, like she was back in a war zone. The rear entrance was unlocked. Too easy, maybe a trap. But Lena stepped inside like she owned the place. The mansion was eerily quiet, marble floors gleaming under dim lights. But the air was wrong. Glass shards in a hallway, a painting askew, like a fight had already broken out. Voices echoed from an office, sharp, panicked. We crept closer. The door cracked just enough to see Victor Salazar, red-faced, pacing behind a mahogany desk, barking at a man I recognized. One of the fake enforcers. No badge now. Just fear. "This wasn't supposed to happen," Salazar snapped. "She was supposed to leave." Lena's eyes narrowed, her hand on the folder, ready to turn their chaos into her checkmate. Willow Creek's perfect mask was peeling, and we were about to rip it off for good. Ever slipped into the lion's den and realized the predators already scared? The air in Victor Salazar's Willow Creek mansion was thick with panic, the kind that chokes a room when lies start to unravel. My wife, Lena Torres, stood in the cracked office doorway, her Delta Force binder in hand, the manila folder of evidence, names, wires, fake HOA contracts, ready to bury the man pacing behind his mahogany desk. I'm just the guy beside her. My name doesn't matter. But my phone was recording, capturing every word, every bead of sweat on Salazar's red face as he barked at the fake enforcer from our driveway, now badgeless and trembling. "She was supposed to run," Salazar hissed, his voice fraying. "Not this," the enforcer stammered. "She's not normal, man." Military backup, real stuff. Lena stepped forward, her sneakers silent on the marble, her presence like a blade slicing through their chaos. "You finally got something right," she said, her voice cold, steady, a Bravo 9 operative in full control. Salazar froze, his eyes locking on her, the color draining from his face like water from a cracked vase. "How did you get in here?" he choked, his hands gripping the desk. The glass shards in the hallway, the tilted painting. Someone had already tried to hit him, but Lena was the real storm, and Willow Creek's corrupt empire was about to collapse. She dropped the folder on his desk, papers fanning out like a prosecutor's exhibit. "You forged documents, impersonated law enforcement, and targeted military families with federal clearance," she said, each word a nail in his coffin. I stepped in, phone steady, my voice cutting through. "This isn't just civil, Salazar, it's federal." His eyes darted to the enforcer, then to the folder, his bluster crumbling. "I've got friends in high places," he sputtered, but his voice cracked, a hollow threat from a man who knew the game was up. Lena smiled, sharp and unyielding. "No, you don't know what you just ended." The front gates groaned open, a crash of metal echoing through the mansion. Boots hit the floor, DOJ agents in dark jackets, Sheriff Daniels behind them, and Elena Vega, the journalist, her camera rolling. Salazar's shoulders slumped, his hands rising in surrender before an agent could even speak. "Victor Salazar, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and impersonation of authority," an agent barked, cuffs clicking as the enforcer dropped to his knees, muttering, "I didn't know." But Lena's eyes didn't soften. She scanned the room, the files, the monitors flickering with security feeds, knowing this wasn't just one man. It was a network, and she just lit the fuse to burn it down. I caught her glance, that half smile, half warning, and felt it. Justice, not as a word, but as a force, alive and unstoppable. Willow Creek's perfect streets, its silent neighbors, its hidden rot. They'd never be the same, because Lena Torres didn't just fight back. She rewrote the rules. Ever seen a single spark take down an empire and make you believe you could do it too? The Willow Creek dusk settled over our street, the once perfect lawns now scarred by tire marks from sheriff's cruisers. A quiet reminder of the storm Lena Torres unleashed. My name's not important, but I'm the guy who watched his wife, a Delta Force Bravo 9 operative, turn a fake HOA's gunpoint threat into a takedown of Victor Salazar's corrupt empire. Our kitchen table, once littered with threatening envelopes, You're Being Watched, now held a stack of Elena Vega's articles, her exposés splashing Salazar's fraud across headlines, from Willow Creek to 3 counties over. Lena sat across from me, her binder closed, her mic off, but her eyes still sharp, like she knew the fight wasn't over, just changing shape. Sheriff Daniels had texted, "Networks unraveling. Feds raiding developer offices tonight. The HOA's shadow board was done, its fake enforcers in cuffs, its land grab schemes exposed, but the neighbors' blinds stayed shut, their silence louder than any applause." Lena didn't need their cheers. She'd burned down a system that preyed on military families, retirees, anyone who dared call this town home, and that was enough. Yet, as I looked at her, sipping coffee like it was just another day, I felt it. Her spark had lit a fire, not just in Willow Creek, but in anyone who'd ever been pushed too far. What would you do if you knew one move could shatter a corrupt empire? This isn't just Lena's story. It's a wake-up call. From a gun in our driveway to a kingpin's arrest, it's proof that one person, one choice, can rip through lies and change everything. Willow Creek streets look the same, but they're not. Families are staying, speaking, fighting back, because Lena showed them how. Share your story in the comments. What's the injustice you faced? The line you're ready to draw? If a Latina Delta Force operative with a gardening apron can dismantle a network, so can you. Hit that like button if this moved you, subscribe for more tales of everyday heroes, and check the playlist on screen for stories that prove courage is contagious.